how you can perform advanced analysis in Astrato self-served without any use of code or anything, just by clicking around and performing some advanced analysis. So what are we going to cover today? We are going to cover today how you can perform expert analysis in Astrato self-serve. So performing the expert analysis in Astrato self-serve, you are going to do it by what we are going to cover today is how easy it is to perform period over period analysis, as we can see in the bottom, converting any simple trend chart to a much more insightful chart where you can compare different periods. And then another option is how you can use to perform trend analysis and identify different trends by leveraging moving average and running total to smooth some outliers. And later we will also see how we can easily identify high and low performer using ranking and dynamic ranking, filtering on different region markets to find the high performance in each market and compare their performance to previous period, etc. But before we are going to jump into our demo, I wanted to speak a little bit about myself, introduce myself. It will be short. So my name is Liron Baram. I'm a senior product manager at Astrato. I've been working with data for over 20 years, and I consider myself a data believer, so I don't believe that the data is lying. It's always something we do wrong, be it our calculation or the data is not ready. My focus in Astrato is on our brain. So basically, whatever happens when you click around, build a chart, define a KPI, how it's going to be calculated, and make sure that you get the right result, even if it's very complex performance or query to perform. And one of the nice things I really like, I consider myself as thoughts runner, because the nice thing I like to do whenever I hit a wall and finding a solution and is just go out on a run. Some people do yoga, some people do other things. For me, running is where I come up with my best ideas for Astrato, and one of them is what we are going to cover today. So advanced calculation in Astrato is an example of one of the, for me, reason why Astrato's offering of self-service is different than other. I think that one of the main challenges of self-service BI, and where previously a lot of tools were failing, is that when you think of self-service, you need to simplify everything, but you need to do it without stupefying everything. So I think in the past what we saw is that the answer for self-service was to take a tool and basically remove all the more advanced functionality and offer users a very limited power to do their analysis using those tools. And now today we are going to look at advanced calculation, which are basically doing the opposite. I'm going to show how we simplify a complex task and make it available for everyone. But last thing before we continue is let's talk about what are advanced calculation. So advanced calculation is going beyond sum, counts, and average. While everyone can do sum, counts, and average, in real life, in reality, a lot of time we need to add another layer on top of it to find our insight, to make more meaningful analysis, to tell a story that we can explain to others. And this is where advanced calculation enter. Just 2 points I want to highlight what are advanced calculation and how they are different than simple sums, count, and average. One, those are calculations that combine measures and a dimension and identity. For example, when we perform period over period, we need to know on which time series we are going to perform it. the same as if we are going to calculate a percentiles result or value, we need to know on which series of value we need to perform this calculation. And the reality is that doing those advanced calculation when you're dealing with data in the cloud or SQL, is that performing them requires moving into a much more full power SQL, including some things that might seem very scary, like window functions, custom function, common table expression, and nested queries. So you might think that it seems very scary to run advanced calculation, but luckily in Astrato we made it so simple and nice that, similar to our image, in the end you will find it actually the thing that you really enjoy doing most in Astrato, or one of the things you're enjoying. But I think I spoke enough about what are advanced calculation and how to do it. Now let's see some live examples how we can turn charts into advanced calculation. So we will do this demo shortly. And yeah, so what we see here, we will start with period over period because I think it's the most common chart. So what I have here is I have my trend, quarterly trend. I can see my revenue, I can see trend, but a lot of time I want to compare some value. What if I want to compare my Q2 performance in 2025 to my Q2 performance in 2024? While both of the values are in the chart, it's not really easy to compare them. And what if I want to compare each quarter to the previous quarter and the same quarter previous year? It's even harder to compare, or impossible to compare those three values for each quarter. So let's see how we can actually do it in Astrato in a few clicks, and it's going to be simpler than you might have anticipated. I just duplicated the chart so we will have a reference of a chart. Yeah, it should be. Yeah, until it will. Yeah, okay. And so first thing first, we want to leave our original calculation, but now let's just duplicate it. Let's rename it. I will rename it to a meaningful name. And now I want to show we see the same value. Let's give it a different color. And now comes our advanced calculation. So there is a menu of what we can do with advanced calculation. We are performing period over period, and what we want is to get the value of the previous quarter. So we'll make it -1. And now we see the value of the previous quarter. But this is not the only one. We also wanted to compare to the previous quarter, same quarter previous year. So let's do this. We'll give it a name. And now all we have to change is to change it to -4. And now we have change the color so we can distinguish between them. So basically what we got here now is a chart that in each quarter, when I stand here, I can easily see the results of Q2, the result of the previous quarter, and the result of the same quarter previous year. And all I had to do is just clicking around and creating this chart. So this is one chart that either it's very simple to create, but now it's a much better, you get a much easier insight. For example, only in 2024 Q2 was the last time that the quarter from the previous year had a higher value than the current year. And we can see that most of the quarter we are growing, last quarters we are growing against previous quarter and against previous year. But this is not the only analysis that we can perform on period over period. Another very common one is to create a chart of quarter over quarter where we want to see the growth between quarters. So let's perform our quarter over quarter analysis. In this case, we will just change the original measure. We will take growth and we will put it at -1. So this shows me, and we will give it the right number. So this shows the percentage change of quarter over quarter. So although I see that my actual values are growing for the last 4 or 5 quarters, I can see that the growth rate has been declining in the last 3 quarters. So while I keep growing, the pace I'm growing is declining. So this is something that quarter over quarter analysis highlights much faster than a regular trend. In a regular trend, you will need to start calculating those differences in order to find the change. And because we want to share it with others, we also want to define that in the cases, the rare cases where our quarter over quarter growth was negative, we will highlight it and color the bar. So once again, by just clicking around a little bit, I was able to create this quarter over quarter chart. So in a few minutes, we converted a very simple chart just using a regular sum into 2 more expert charts that highlight for us and allow us to do a more deep dive analysis and find insights in the data. Another example is running totals and when to use them and why would I even use them. So running totals are just accumulating the value over the entire period of the chart. So here I have my monthly trend by different customer classification, but it's really hard for me to see the growth pace for each individual customer group and to see which one is actually has in the total higher revenue for me. So what I will do, I will just come here and take my total revenue, and this time we are going to select the function from the moving aggregation and select running total. And now this chart, let's organize it a little bit. We will move the legend to the right so we have more height. And we can see the now it's easier to identify which customer group has contributed most, and we can see that this one, not just that it contributes most, the growth pace in the last half a year has been much faster than other groups. So this is where running total is better than just looking at the values, because it's easier to identify changing growth pace. And another usage of running total, but a different running total, is in this case I'm running my the categories I'm selling at my shop is bikes. It's around bikes, so I'm selling bikes, I'm selling accessories and clothing, and I want to see over the last 12 months if all categories have been growing in the same pace, and if the growth rate between months and is been similar. But if I look at the absolute values, because bikes are much pricier than their accessories and clothing, it's really hard to see what happened with the other categories in regards to what happens with bags. So when I want to compare values or categories that have different values on scale, what I can use instead of running total is I can use the running rate. So what running rate does, it's calculate for each category the contribution of each month toward the total achieved in that period. And suddenly what I can see, let's enlarge this chart a little bit, is that all my categories are performing together almost in the same trend and going in the same direction or generating income at the same pace. So this is what I am expecting, because I'm expecting to, whenever bikes are sold, to be able to accompany them by accessories and clothing to basically give the customer the full experience of our brand. So by converting it to running rate, I can find this insight and say, okay, this is behaving as much as I want. Third, another option is to do, or whenever I need to do some more advanced calculation, is when I want to look at, most of the time, my daily trends. So what I have here is I'm analyzing our performance by customer gender over the last 90 days. And days tend to have high difference in values, weekends, not weekends. So it's really hard to read this chart and understand where am I going. And I do know that usually I need to look at a cycle of even 2 weeks in my store in our company to get there, to remove some noise out of the chart. So what I want to do is actually each point to display the average of the previous 13 day and the point itself. So this is performing a moving average. So once again, I will go to our moving aggregation and moving calculation, and instead of 3, I will do 13. So it's 13 days before the period I want to look at, and including the period. So now what I get after I did this is a chart that I actually can read. One, I can identify a growing trend for both genders. I can see that in my male customer, I had a drop in 3-4 months ago, but now I'm going up, while my female customers seems to drop down lately over the last month. So by performing this moving average, I'm actually able to see the trend without the noise of outlier and read the chart and find some insight. And now I know that I need to focus and see why my female customers are declining and what can I do to improve this situation, and on the other I maintain the growth on my male customers population. So this is another example where what we covered in the last 3 examples is how using moving calculation and a little bit applying some more advanced querying into your chart allow you to uncover insight that you wouldn't be able to do if you only were limited to very simple calculation. Another powerful tool that we have is ranking. So I also want to focus on finding the right markets for me to be active in. So what I have here is the cities where we are active, and the income and the current year to date and previous year to date revenue from those cities. And what I want to see, and my question is this consistent? Are the cities that are leading the way this year were also the cities leading the way previous year, or are there cities that decline in regard to other cities? So inside my activity, which markets have been becoming leaders and which markets have been dropping down and have much less impact for me. So the best way for me to do it, to compare between different city and different years, is by ranking the performance in the 2 years and then compare them. So let's do it. Let's see how we can compare ranking. I will duplicate the current year today revenue and so we have the revenue rank current year to date, and we once again go to our advanced calculation and we will select rank, and we immediately get it. It's descending, so we see that this is the order of the current year. Now let's add another one, which will be the previous year to date ranking. So we will previous year to date, we will do the same. And it is also the same. So just in a quick look, I can see that London was leading the way also previously. But to be more efficient, I want to compare those two results to identify high risers and also markets that have been dropping. So what I will use now, it's another kind of advanced calculation, which is calculated column, which is basically just allowing us to combine any other measures we already have in the table. So basically now we are going to combine two ranks in order to find. So we will take the rank of current year to date and subtract the previous year to date ranking from. And so what we see now is, for example, that while the current rank of, let's do it by ranking, just a second. Yeah, so what we can see is that Bellflower, that are the third rank city this year market, were only the 75 rank city last year. So they are basically, let's change the order, it will be more accurate. So what we can see, they gain 72 places, while if we want to sort by this column, we can easily identify we can see the high risers. So West Covina has been were ranked 227 last year, and now they are ranked 49, etc. We can see as we said, 72 places that Bellflower. And on the other hand, we can also look at Oxon, that went from 208 it's ranked 208, it was ranked in 95. Of course, maybe we are more interested in San Leonardo's because it went down from 20, which was a very significant market previous year, to 113. So what we see is that by combining rank and even combining two ranks together, we can instantly find the market we need to focus and identify what happens, why they are dropping, and why they are not as significant as before. And on the other hand, we can also try and learn from the opposite markets, and we can say, how come we are doing so much better this year on those markets, and how can we apply this performance to other markets and maybe increase the performance there also. So this is another example how we perform advanced calculation by just applying some clicks and by just thinking about it. As you see, that it's very, very straightforward and very intuitive. So you have the advanced calculation, you just select the function you want to use, and you follow it. I think the last example we are going to do will be something I also like. So what I have here, I'm trying to classify my products into 4 groups. So my scatter chart is showing me the average order and the gross profit for all the orders for all the products. What I want to identify is to split my product to 4 groups. The group that is both the average order and the gross profit is above the median value, and then the other areas of the chart. So let's see how we can do it also. So when we think of it, what we want to do is to compare each individual product to the performance on all the other products. So what we are going to use is compare to total, and we are going to use what we are going to use as the function. We will use percentile. We will calculate the difference for each product we can calculate the rate. So how big is the value against the rate of percentile? We can calculate the difference. So this line identify the median value. So half the products are on the left side and the other half are on the right side. Now, we do want to do it also for the gross profit, so then we can split our products to the 4 quartiles. So let's also compare it to total. And now what I get is this area. Those are products that their average value is above the median product and also their gross profit. And on the other end, those products are on the other end. They are both low performing on average order value and on gross profit. Now, the nice thing about this chart is this is, and every other advanced calculation is that those charts are dynamic. So if we select only part of the product, everything will be recalculated. So now inside this group of products, now this is how it's split. We see that we don't really have something that is both, it's more split on the line. And then we can say, okay, we want to focus here. They have gross profit, but nice gross profit, but the average order is relatively low. And then, but out of this group, now we can identify this that has a higher average order and maybe focus on. So we found our 21 products. We want to try and see how we can increase their average order value because they start with a nice potential of high gross profit for any order we do perform. So this is another example of this. And coming back to rank, one last thing, we have this ranking as we showed, but what if we wanted to do this ranking per region? So we can activate the region, and what we see is now the region of North America. Nothing has changed for now because the ranking, we didn't change anything, but what we can do now that we have more than one dimension, if I want to see the rank for each region, I can come here and say, actually, I want each city to be ranked inside the region. And we'll do the same for the previous period. And now if we, for example, sort by the rank, we see that we have 3 regions, and those are the cities that are ranked inside the region highest, like the performance inside the region. So actually, London performance, just a second, we had the filter from the previous. So this is what we can see now that we have 3 number ones. 2 of them were actually maintaining their standing, which is London and Wollongong. But we can see that in North America, where we saw that flour was rising in general, inside we can also see that even inside North America, it's grew from 19 to number 1 this year. So we can basically now do the analysis per region and follow the results per region and identify in each region the high riser and the drop and the markets that are dropping and focus from there. So these were some example. We have complete documentation on how you can do each performance, and we are going to shortly, and you can find also example in our Astrato gallery. And I hope you found this presentation and also example gave you some idea on how in Astrato we are solving the challenge of allowing you to perform expert analysis on your data without the need to go to any analyst, without the need to know how to write a code. And it's basically available for everyone that just need to click around and find the right function, but we show how you can uncover insight and find insight that otherwise will be missing. Thank you everyone for listening, and do follow us, and we have some exciting sessions coming up in the next few weeks, so don't miss them. Thank you everyone.